Welcome to This Explainer. You know, today we're shining a spotlight on something we all use every single day, but almost never really think about. We're talking about the hidden, vital infrastructure completely out of sight beneath your home in Lawrence, Indiana. It's so easy to just take for granted that clean water flows in and wastewater flows out, but the systems making all that happen, they are incredibly complex.
So let me ask you a question that literally affects every single homeowner in Marion County. What exactly is going on beneath your feet, right? It's not just a random jumble of pipes down there. It is a highly engineered, geographically sensitive network that is constantly battling the elements, the soil, and of course, the passage of time.
Here is our roadmap for the explainer. First, we'll look at Lawrence's unique plumbing landscape. Then, we're going to cover the soil, water, and weather threats, followed by common plumbing emergencies. After that, we'll touch on professional standards and codes, walk through the professional process, and wrap up with how you can proactively protect your plumbing infrastructure. Sound good? Let's get into it.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Lawrence's unique plumbing landscape, because where your house actually sits completely changes the game.
And man, is there a stark contrast out here. Lawrence is literally at the crossroads of old and new. If you're living over near Fort Benjamin Harrison in a home built back in the 50s or 60s, you're probably dealing with aging galvanized pipes and cast iron drains that are frankly on their last legs. But if you head over to the newer developments near Geist Reservoir or Oaklandon, it's a totally different story. We're talking modern PEX systems and complex manifold designs. But hey, newer definitely doesn't mean perfect. Those areas often run on well water, so you're battling some seriously hard water. It just goes to show, cookie-cutter solutions, yeah, they absolutely do not work here.
Moving right along to Section 2, Soil, Water, and Weather Threats. Let's talk about the natural forces that are constantly, and I mean constantly, attacking these systems.
The big takeaway here is that Marion County's specific geography is relentless. First up, we've got this heavy clay soil. When it gets wet, it expands, and when it dries, it shrinks. That constant shifting moves foundation slabs and puts an unbelievable amount of pressure on your underground pipes. Then you've got high water tables, especially if you're near the Fall Creek watershed. Hello, basement flooding. Throw in our brutal Indiana winter freeze-thaw cycles that literally warp your pipes, plus that hard water we talked about leaving thick, crusty mineral buildup inside your lines. It is an absolute battleground for a pipe.
And you know what else is happening right under our noses? Root intrusion. We all love the beautiful, mature trees around Lawrence, right? Well, those trees are incredibly thirsty. They will actively send roots right into the tiny joints and cracks of older, pre-1980s clay sewer lines to get a drink. Once they break in, those roots create this dense web that traps waste and paper. It starts as a slow, annoying drain and eventually turns into a total, messy blockage.
Okay, Section 3. Common plumbing emergencies. What actually happens when the environment wins the fight?
Well, for those pre-1980s homes we mentioned earlier, a huge hidden danger is galvanized supply lines rusting from the inside out. Since you can't exactly peek inside your walls, you usually don't see it coming until it's too late. As the rust builds up, it basically chokes off your water flow. And if you turn on your faucet and the water comes out looking brown, stop right there. That is a massive red flag. It means the corrosion is highly advanced and a major leak is practically knocking at your door.
It's honestly fascinating how our local weather translates directly into the kind of disasters plumbers see every single day. Winter deep freezes, the ice expands and literally splits copper and PEX lines wide open, which turns into a flooded house the second they thaw. Heavy spring storms dumping rain onto that heavy clay soil, that easily overwhelms sump pumps and floods basements. And those thirsty tree roots we just talked about, they're the prime suspects for causing raw sewage to back up into your home. The environment absolutely dictates the emergency.
Which brings us to Section 4, Professional Standards and Codes, because fixing these complex disasters requires following some very strict rules.
Plumbing is definitely not a guessing game. The Indiana Plumbing Code lays down precise, non-negotiable requirements. For instance, pipe sizes have to be calculated down to the exact fixture unit loads, just so you actually have water pressure when you shower. Gas lines? They have to follow hardcore NFP 54 standards for materials and pressure testing. There are even mandatory backflow preventers to stop dirty water from contaminating the city's supply. Oh, and you absolutely have to keep your sump pump discharge totally separate from the sanitary sewers. It's a very exact science.
And you really need to know what legally requires a permit here in Marion County. Swapping out a water heater? You need a permit. Moving a gas line or repiping a house? Definitely need a permit.
But if you're just putting in a new kitchen faucet, replacing a toilet, or unclogging a standard drain, you're good to go without one. This is absolutely crucial, folks. If an unlicensed handyman skips the permit process, you're looking at code violations that can tank a future home sale, or even worse, cause your insurance company to deny a massive water damage claim.
Moving to Section 5, the professional process. When things do go sideways, how do the local pros actually fix it?
Well, it usually follows a refreshingly straightforward three-step process. Step 1 is contact and dispatch. Making that call immediately triggers the system to find the absolute closest truck in the Lawrence area to cut down on response times. Step 2 is diagnosis and approval. This is all about transparency, giving you an upfront price and a plain English explanation of the problem before anybody picks up a wrench. And Step 3 is repair and verification. They use quality parts, test everything thoroughly, and maybe the best part, they actually clean up and restore your property. No surprises, just getting the job done right.
As for how long this all takes, it really sets realistic expectations when you break it down. If you've just got a leaky faucet or a standard clogged drain, you're usually looking at a quick 2-hour fix. Upgrading to a new, code-compliant water heater, that's more like a 4-hour job, start to finish. But if you have to rip out those 1960s galvanized pipes for a whole house repipe, that is a multi-day project. Though, fun fact, pros will actually install strategic valves as they go, so you can still use your water during most of the construction. Pretty smart, right?
I really love this insight right here. Tackling a slab leak at an old 1950s ranch on Shadeland Avenue is a completely different beast than repiping a modern 2-story colonial over in Saddlebrook. A one-size-fits-all approach is a recipe for disaster. Hyperlocal knowledge isn't just a bonus, it is absolutely required to navigate Lawrence's incredibly diverse architectural landscape.
All right, let's wrap things up with Section 6, protecting your plumbing infrastructure. What can you do right now to protect your home?
There are so many proactive steps you can take today to save yourself a massive headache tomorrow. Before the winter freeze hits, get down in the crawl space or up in the attic and insulate those exposed pipes. Before spring storms roll in, test your sump pump and seriously look into getting a battery backup. Oh, and here's a super easy one. Just disconnect your outdoor garden hoses before the temperature drops. That simple move alone prevents so many burst pipes. Also, schedule an annual inspection to catch that hidden corrosion early, and if your house runs on that hard well water, do yourself a huge favor and get a water softener. It's a total game changer for extending the life of your pipes and appliances.
And if you only remember one number from this entire explainer, make it 55, as in 55 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the absolute lowest you should ever let your indoor thermostat go during an Indiana winter. Even if you're flying off to a warm beach for 2 weeks, leave it at 55. If you let your house get colder than that, you are practically inviting the ice in, and you'll come home to thousands of dollars in water damage hidden inside your walls.
So, as we finish up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. Are the hidden veins of your home actually prepared for the next deep freeze or heavy spring storm? Because, as we've seen today, the soil, the water, and the wild weather of Lawrence, Indiana are always just waiting to find the weak link in your system. Stay proactive, folks, and stay informed. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep learning.